Yeah. It's,
Okay, here we are for another astrology hot chat with
yeah.
Sara and Sarah, sweet astrology sisters.
Yes.
So we're here to talk about Venus today.
Yeah. And we already started. And so it usually happens like this with us, where we're going to start a conversation. And we're like, okay, record.
Because we're already in.
We're
Yeah.
too far deep.
So let's
Um,
rewind. Let's rewind a little bit. So it's like
right.
it's August the 9th, and we are in the middle of a Venus retrograde in Leo. And
Venus is going to be conjunct the sun on the 17th. So this Sunday, this
okay.
coming Sunday. First conjunction, first Venus Cazimi out of 2 during this retrograde.
Okay.
And just entering what I call the Venus portal. Like this is like a moment. This is a moment in every Venus retrograde where in a bubble that is very palpable.
Because she is like Kazimi means when she is in the light of the sun. So she's basically we could see her if the sun wasn't so bright, but she's in between us and the sun. So she is like, she disappears. She is in the retrograde. That means she's gone anyway. But at that moment of Kazimi on the 17th, that she's exact degree with the sun. So she's right in the heart of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And then she exits her retrograde on September 3rd. Is that true? She stations direct?
Yeah, is it 3rd? I don't know why my heart was saying 12 in my heart.
Let me look at the ephemeris. I
I
know
think
that
I
she's
have
out of her shadow on the 7th and 8th of October, but September the 5th, actually, it looks like.
okay.
Oh, wait. Sorry, I'm not looking at the, no, it's, yeah, September the 5th, she goes direct. So not
Okay.
September the 5th.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, amazing.
So do you want to, should we talk a little bit about the overall Venus cycle and kind of contextualize it and talk about what happens in a Venus cycle? Like it is quite a beautiful symmetry. I mean, Venus is it's the brightest star. Well, it's not a star, but it's the brightest thing we see other than the moon and the sun. So
It's
she's
the brightest star in our sky, real
yeah,
talk. In the sky, it's the brightest star. It's been followed by all
every
cultures. For every culture is obsessed with Venus because she's the brightest, and so we've been following her cycles forever and practicing. And so humans have been practicing Venus stuff forever and started noticing the 5-pointed pentagram star of her travels through the ecliptic, which is fascinating and brought even more fascination. And also the fact that Venus goes from morning star to evening star.
Yeah.
And so that's really important as part of her trajectory and the following of her path.
So she has a 584-day cycle. And then for 8 months of that cycle, she is going to be appearing in the morning. So she appears like in the wee hours, right? So she'll appear at like 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is, whatever season. You'll see her right before sunrise. And during her morning star phase for the 8 months, once a month, she'll appear with the crescent waning moon. I believe it's the waning crescent. So she joins the waning crescent once a month during that morning cycle. Then she retrogrades. She actually goes behind the sun. Right. This is what I've learned. She goes behind the sun. She disappears for a retrograde for 40 days. And then she appears in the evening sky, like you were saying. And then in the evening sky, she stays there for another 7 or 8 months. And she appears once a month with the waxing crescent moon. And then she disappears into another retrograde, but this one she comes in front of the sun, in between the earth and the sun. And she's going Kazimi at that point because she's in the beauty of the sun. And that's where we are right now. So she goes retrograde for 40 days and then she begins again as the morning star. So we're about to begin a new Venus cycle as she rises as the morning star after this retrograde is finished. And then that whole 584-day cycle repeats for 5 years, each of the year, creating a point of the star. Every time she goes through this cycle, she creates a point of the star. Is that true?
It's
No,
8 years.
it's
Yeah,
8
that
years. Yeah,
8
you're right. I
years
was
is the
thinking
point
maybe
of the
5 years.
star. No, it's 8 years, the point of the star, which are always in the same five signs for a period of time. So it takes a long time to be in these five signs, and then it eventually shifts one, and then the other, and then the other.
Yeah.
And so right now, right now Venus is in Leo doing her retrograde in Leo. And so last time it was retrograde in Leo was 8 years ago. It has two conjunctions, so the one in front and behind of the sun, which is inferior and superior conjunctions. Right now we're in an inferior conjunction, which means that Venus is extra close to the sun. And so also, so I think that really is important actually to mention is that a Venus retrograde, any retrograde, first of all, is a relationship between a planet and the sun. And it's the perspective from Earth of the angle from the planet and the sun. Okay? So any retrograde will happen when a planet is closer to the sun and becomes closer to the sun. Okay? And so to not take the sun out of our Venus retrograde equations is also something that's interesting to think.
To not take this, well, the sun is in Leo. She is in Leo. That is why she is
Exactly.
closest to the sun. So
Right.
she's aligning with the sun in the same archetype. So to not take the sun out of the equation, in other words, the solar force of that Leo archetypal pulse is shedding light, is bringing illumination, perhaps, to our Venusian nature within that archetypal structure. So it's like we are able to see our Venusian quality or our nature in that archetype way more because of the solar force that's pouring onto her. It's almost like it's like completely subsuming her or consuming her in a sense, burning her, and also burning, right? The sun is burning her. So there's that, in the Sumerian myth of Inanna, and they talk about the descent, Inanna's descent into the underworld as representational of the kind of the 40 days and 40 nights where she disappears, right? And she takes off, as she walks down into the underworld, she takes off her 7 vestments or her pieces,
Layers.
her layers.
Yeah.
Each one corresponds to a different chakra. And then she comes down to the bottom of the underworld and she's naked, and her sister kills her and hangs her on a meat hook. And that's kind of like, she's just been like totally destroyed, right? Like it's like the shadow. You've descended all the way to the very bottom where there's no more to take off. You can't get any more naked. You can't get any more destroyed. Like you're absolutely annihilated.
And now the person you love the most and you're the closest with kills you. And hangs
exactly.
you.
Your sister,
Exactly.
right?
You're so vulnerable. You're so naked that even those who are your closest kill you.
So in that point, then you have to start.
Don't cry.
No, but is that the moment of Cazimi? That's the moment of the Cazimi,
Yeah.
right? It's the bottom
Right.
retrograde cycle. So that's on the 17th, you were saying. Is what are you sure it's not the 12th?
Oh, maybe. You know how I am with numbers?
I don't know. I figured it out a couple days
Sure,
ago.
sure.
Forget.
Sure. Yeah, Sunday, the 12th.
Yeah, I think it's the 12th. I think it's
done. Yeah,
and so
yeah.
when in that moment, then on the 12th, it's almost like she is at the most raw, the most vulnerable, and the most naked. And as like we're still descending. So since she went retrograde on July, what was it? Like July, I think she went retrograde July.
A month ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
No,
I really
22nd. That's right.
I don't know how you guys do it with dates, man. I know them, I write them, and then they're like
dates. I feel where we're at, but yeah, the dates.
exactly.
July 22nd, she went retrograde. And then so since then, July 22nd to August 12th, it's almost like she is just like we've been taking off the layers. That's what we've been doing since the 22nd, is taking off the vestments, taking off the finery. What is that? It's like all the presentations that usually cloak us, right? So that we can hide and feel happy and comfortable in the world around, right? Like, oh, well, this is me, or this is me, or this is me. And all these things that we put on so that we don't have to feel the vulnerability inside, or the deep, deep, deep levels of need that we have inside of us, because Venus is need.
And particularly in Leo, where visibility is so important.
Seriously.
What you show matters. What you show matters. What will they accept you for who you are? I think is one big Leo concern.
So if I take off all my
layers, will they still love me? Will they still clap for me? I know it's very, very deep work. And because it's in Leo, and because it's the sun in Leo, it really fucks with this part of us. I think it has to be said about Leo that it's a really relational sign.
It is the first relational sign. It really is, actually.
It really is. It's really this idea of like, oh, I'm here with you. This is for you. There's a generosity in Leo, and so in the best world, in Leo's utopia, yourself could be a gift for somebody.
Yes, that is what Leo wants. It wants to
It
make
wants to bring everything that they are, and that's the offering to life.
Yeah.
And so Leo comes with an enthusiasm that is not unlike a kid who's 7 and who comes to show you their dance moves.
Yes. Mama, look
Right?
at what I did.
Look at me. I could do this, right?
And she wants you to love it. She needs
And
you
she
to
wants
love
you to
it.
say, wow, good
Wow,
job. That's beautiful. I can see how much you love it. That made me so happy.
Yeah,
Right?
that's it.
This is Leo's like fantasy world.
Yeah.
But, and in this world,
Yeah.
right now, and in many previous worlds, this is not welcome. It's not welcome for women particularly. Like, it's like, shut up, sit down.
It's like seen and
Be modest, cover yourself.
yeah.
Shh, you're too much. You're too much. That sense of too muchness is Leo's Achilles heel.
Or
Like,
alternatively, like, in order to be something special, you have to wear this, look like this, weigh this. These are the criteria, right? So the accoutrement in Leo almost hide an inner insecurity that I'm not allowed to be myself, or I'm not special.
not enough.
I'm not enough. Yeah, I'm not enough.
So it's this not enough, too much
matter.
kind of like dichotomy. And so with this relationship between the sun, like I am, and then Venus, which is like, it's so in retrograde, it becomes a question like, am I? Right? So with Venus retrograde in Leo, is like, am I beautiful? Am I interesting? Am I enough? Am I too much? Am I like, it's really, it puts us in this place of maybe questioning. And I think that the more we descend and the more it gets closer to the raw, like you're hung on a meat hook, 7 layers below, you know, you're
and you're starting to rot.
And you're starting to rot. It smells bad here. And you're like, ah, fuck it. This is the show.
This is all I
am. This is what I have to give.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Take it or leave it. I can't do it better than this.
Meat hook. Right?
That's it, baby. Take it or leave it. I can't do any better than this. And that's like that's the pivot, like that's the pivot perfect point for Leo, because there's this, Leo is like this, I always think about Leo is almost like Libra, but Libra is more, I'm going to hold balance here and here, right? Like I'm going to hold these two things and like balance. But Leo is almost like, okay, well, actually, if I fall too much over here or I fall too much over there, I'm totally messed. Like I have to stay right in the center. Fixed. I just have to be me. I can't be too much. I can't be the way I like to, like the way I feel it in myself is I'm nothing or I'm everything. And neither of those are true. I'm nothing. No, that's not true. I'm everything. No, that's not true. Self-aggrandizing or self-deprecating to the extreme, right? I'm either everything, I'm the best, the top, everything. I'm amazing, me. Or I'm not, I'm nothing. I'm awful, I'm miserable, I'm absolutely nothing, I'm deplorable, I'm awful, I'm like the worst ever. Everyone hates me. And like those are two polarity points of Leo's egoic trap. Like she'll go to either end of that extreme with this desire to find her way back into the center where she's just like on a meat hook, being like, no, I actually just am me. Like, I don't need to be anything else but right in this moment where I'm just myself. And if I can accept that I am myself, just what I am right now, then this permission happens where I actually start to shine, because I'm not trying to be more than me or less than me. And I'm also not really obsessing about me anymore. Now I'm doing a dance for my mom. Now I'm shining and I'm performing. My love and my light is pouring into the world because I'm not worried about what other people might think about me. Do they think I'm everything? Do they think I'm, do you know what I mean? It's like the narcissistic loop.
The sun of the sun, of the need to shine, the need for identity, the need to say I am, the need to show yourself, the need to be true. And so for people, what that would mean is that right now there is ego work to be looked
There's
at.
ego work. Well, it's Leo, of course. There's ego
You
work.
know,
Yeah.
there's ego work to be
There's
looked
ego work.
at. I always say, don't try to kill your ego, because that bitch is going to get stronger and it's going to come and hide in places you are not going to believe that it gets to go. So if you try to kill it, it's a bad idea. It's like a mom.
Kill it.
Don't do that. Why would you do that?
That's not the feminine way. That's not the.
And your ego is
Yeah.
like your defense system, and it's here for a reason. And to dance with it, to be with it, to be familiar with it, to laugh about it, to love up on it, to understand that it's like a 7-year-old reaction because the grown-ups didn't clap. And that there's like parts of you that come from like a very, very smaller place that just need tenderness like everybody else's. That for me is better ego work than just this thing of like dead detachment, ascension. And so ascending versus descending, can we go into this?
I want to actually like tell you, like I just did a presentation on Leo, and I was researching the ancient iconography of the lion and how it changed over the thousands of years between them, from the migration from the matriarchy to the patriarchy, because our masculine Leonin figure is Hercules, who kills the lion and puts his pelt on, right? He becomes the hero by killing the ego through the labor of killing the Nemean lion. And then he takes the lion's skin off and wears it. And now Hercules is the greatest hero that ever lived. Now, but before that, the feminine goddess was always represented with lions. So
by her side.
By her side, exactly. So Inanna was on her throne with 2 lions on either side of her. So the lions, or the egoic nature or the animal nature, was protecting her. She was merged with it. She was one with it rather than killing it. So it's just the
masculine was at rest, chilling in its place in protecting the feminine, and the feminine could rest in her place that she was protected.
So we went through, we go through these waves of masculine, feminine kind of on the planet, and we're just swinging out of the masculine back toward the feminine. So we're changing the paradigm of how we express divinity. We're moving from a masculine to a feminine. And should I talk?
You're talking about Regulus.
Should I talk about that? Do you think that
you can? Absolutely, because what I was thinking when you were saying it, I was saying, well, it depends which cycle you're looking at, right? Because every star and every planet is going to have its cycle where it's either entering a feminine phase or a masculine phase. And so the reality of here is that we're in a mascu femme minute, particularly culturally, where I feel like,
Yeah,
oh,
like there's this blurring or this blending, like we're kind of confused right now. We're like, am I feminine?
we're in
What's the,
this
like, what is a woman?
queer,
Yeah.
we're in this queer era that, like, okay, maybe Pluto in Aquarius, like, is, and so that would be masculine Aquarius.
Yes, but it's almost as though like we're going through this rewiring of how we do consciousness. And so a
Right,
lot of that is a destabilization of the patriarchal rules and then a
right.
reestablishment of a different rule system of
Balance.
rules. So as we move through the upheaval of that, are the way we consciously relate to that and the stories we tell and the narratives we create, it's all just up for grabs. Like we're making it up as we go along, so we don't have any idea what's happening really. So now I'm feeling all of this feminine energy in me. Well, I'm going to talk about that, or I'm going to express it, and I'm going to, I'm going to be that. But what happens when that starts to crumble? What happens when the patriarchal rules start to crumble and we don't have that association anymore? We don't have that identity anymore. Like, where do we find our identity? Because this is happening inside all of us. Like, it's not just inside women. It's not just inside men. It's a masculine, feminine. We are all that. We all have masculine and feminine inside of us, right? We all play on that. We all play with that balance inside of us. But anyway, let me tell the Regulus thing.
I love it. Yeah.
I learned this really recently as well. And this was the coolest piece of information. The star Regulus is the brightest star in the constellation of Leo. And Regulus is known as like a ruling star. And so Regulus has been in Leo for a very long time, thousands of years. And it just changed to 0 degrees of Virgo at the end of 2011. So at the end of November 2011, it changed to 0 degrees of Virgo. And Dane Rudhyar, who was a like sort of an epic, very respected astrologer of the 20th century, he predicted, because he years before this had happened, he predicted that when Regulus changed from Leo to Virgo, it would indicate the coming of a new age, which would end our focus on the patriarchal ascension structure of divinity to the matriarchal descension structure of divinity. So what that means is we've been looking for God in the masculine orientation. So we've been finding the divine by going up and ascending beyond material reality. And now we're being asked to come down and descend into material reality to find God. Whereas before, in the ascending, we were told that going down was wrong. The feminine was right. We were trying to get away from the material. And now there's been this reversion where we need to come into the material. We need to come into the body, but we need to find our sacredness there. So this is also getting back to that, the conversation we were just having about how the heroic model of Leo is to best the ego and wear the crown or wear the cloak and be the hero and la la. But the feminine version of Leo is to come all the way into your being, come all the way into your body and be in your grace, be an embodiment of it, and be in the power of it, and have the animal nature at your side. So the ego becomes like a companion, like you were saying, like your pet. We have like the pet, and we love it, right?
As a little buddy. Yeah, exactly. I
Our
take care
buddy.
of her.
She's like my little
Needs
dog. She goes on little
exactly.
adventures with me. There she is.
Yeah, and maybe
My
your
buddy.
ego is like an even smaller dog, those that bark a lot and that are very nervous, but people kiss them on the mouth a lot. Those dogs. That's your ego. Your ego is like a chihuahua, like a trembling, nervous, barking chihuahua that you need to put a little sweater on her. You know?
If you're living in Montreal in the winter.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I love this. I love this. I think it's really a deep way to talk about Leo, to think about how we deal with these layers of the self, how we deal with everything that we've put on ourselves in order to be accepted. And maybe Venus's descent in Leo is like, it's okay, put it down. They don't like you anyway.
Well, or just stop caring if they like you, I think.
Yeah, you don't like them. Venus is
Simply
like,
what you want. You know
these
what? Like, what if
peasants.
the rule of the universe was this? If you are 100% yourself, those beings that are meant to love you and like lick you up, they're gonna be like, yeah. And those
100%.
beings that aren't, they're not supposed to be your people.
And if
So
they
what are
love
you
you for
trying
your
so hard for?
layers,
Hmm?
if they love you for your layers, did they
You don't
even
want to be
ever
with them
love you?
anyway.
Did they even ever love you? Do they even know you? If you're so scared that being yourself would make you lose them, then that means you never had them to begin with.
Oh, you are so right. If we could all remember that in love relationship, right? We would
Oh,
save
it's
ourselves so much time. If we could all
rule
remember
number
that
one.
total nakedness is the only way to go.
It's the only way to go, because you, first of all, you can't keep up with the appearances. At some point, that shit is gonna fall.
Yeah, it just yeah, it falls away.
Yeah. And so that's also like a little chihuahua. If you put it in a room and you're hiding it, eventually it's gonna bark, it's gonna shit itself. Like your chihuahua, you can't put her like in a cage. Like, don't kill that. Like, let, and it's true, like in love relationships, the only way to be in relationship is to be bare, is to be bare.
To be
And
bare.
it's very scary. It's a very scary thing. And so that's part of like a really intense Leo thing. And so it's important for everybody to know, like, what's your relationship with your sun? Because everything that happens in Leo happens to the sun. And so everything that happens to the sun happens to your own sun in your chart. So sometimes the math is like very simple, like sun sign medicine. Like, who's taking care of their sun sign? We're so like astrologers, like, oh, Venus is sextiling Pluto or whatever. But it's like sun sign work. We also look down on it. Like, I'm not
So
just
like
a
sun
Taurus.
sign work, like that's a whole other maybe topic for conversation, like in another hour. I like
Right. But so
I now I want to scratch that a little bit, but
but let's
I
not,
don't think
but
so
let's
because
not, but
that's
so
big.
whenever we're talking about Leo, we're talking about that. And so where
Yeah.
your sun is in your chart, what house it's in, what house Leo is in, all of these things are up for conversation. But that's not even the Venus conversation.
Yeah.
And so the Venus conversation, your relationship to your values, your sense of worth, your desires, your relationship with your worthiness of receiving pleasure, of welcoming goodness in your life, like your ability to do so. That's a very essential part of us. And it's a very also hurt part of us. And so this Venus retrograde maybe touches two hurt pieces of people that are specific, that are tender, tender.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not easy. I'd rather Mercury retrograde where people are like, oh my God, this is fucking with my head. My computer won't start. Like, who gives a shit? But now you're like questioning your worth, your visibility in relationship,
Your ability to receive, your
your
worth.
ability to receive, your ability to desire goodness, to believe in goodness. Like,
Right.
shit.
To want more and to fulfill your needs, like
Yeah.
to fulfill your needs and to know what they are and to honor them. It's complicated. It's a big one. This is a big one. And Mercury is about to go retrograde, so we can have
As well.
some good fun like I think maybe rewiring the narrative of how we talk about these things as Mercury goes retrograde, right?
Yeah, trying to think differently. I think when both of them are retrograde, like, I would really suggest that people do like a little journaling moment where they investigate and think about these things
How
and
do I talk about
ponder.
myself? How do I talk about what I need and what I'm worth and who I am, and maybe I need to change the way I'm speaking. That would
And
be,
in relationship, like,
yeah.
who am I in relationship? What do I think my worth is in relationship? What is my worthiness of receiving love?
Yeah.
How good can my relationships be? And so, and that extends to a relationship with the, which is with the universe as well. I think
Yeah.
that God is also a big other, like a descendant of our chart. Your relationship with the other, you know, like the seventh house as yeah, relationship, compromise, discussion, and with another. And so God is also the first other,
Yeah.
you know,
It is the ultimate other, actually. It is
right?
the only other, truly.
It's the only other,
It's the
truly.
only other,
And
truly.
so when we ask for abundance, when we ask for love, when we ask for all of these things, like who do we ask to? Like at some level, we ask for to God. Venus has to do with desire, which has to do with prayer, with asking, with wanting. And so when you ask the universe, God, whatever, insert definition, you know, spirit, the field, some people call it, you know, energy, whatever. When you're asking to receive these things, are you asking knowing that God provides and that you receive that universe, or is it like a relationship?
Yeah.
It's
Gosh,
that's complicated too, you
that
know.
just
And
blew
so,
my mind, because like, what if we were in a relationship and when we ask to have our need met, we just trusted that we are asking God in that moment, right? That the nakedness of our own desire, our own need, and our trust and our faith in the divine can allow us to be transparent and honest with the other, and that is a sacred act, as because every you are right now like almost the representation of God to me.
always,
So
yeah,
if I act as though you are the divine, why wouldn't
exactly.
I be completely honest about what I need from you right now, and also willing to receive? And if you say no, what does that mean?
So yeah, so that's when we get into a thing, you know. And I think one of my favorite parts of this Venus, of thinking about Venus, you know, is in romantic paintings of Venus. You
Mm-hmm.
will often see Venus laying on a couch naked. And
Mm-hmm.
so you see her from her back, you see her beautiful curves, her butt, whatever. She probably has a few servants, angels, and stuff, and a mirror,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so she's there sprawled, and you're looking at her, and she's looking in the mirror. But when she's looking in the mirror, she's never looking at herself. She's looking at you, looking at her. Okay. And so she creates this moment, the sexy tension, where she knows you're looking at her and she's looking at you, looking at her, because she wants you to want her.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so this desire component with Venus
Mm-hmm.
comes, so you can only want what you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes from this place of, it's like a hunger, Venus.
Yeah, because you're trying to pull something in. She's a magnet.
You know, like when you're horny and you feel like a yearn in your belly,
That's Venus.
that's Venus energy. It's the yearning.
So there's this, I mean, there's different levels of what you're talking about right now, because there's the biological, there's like the second chakra rules the plant kingdom, which is the most fertile and fecundant kingdom on the planet, right? So we all have our, like our vaginas and our penises vibrate like plants. They are wanting, like, we want
Cuties.
to reproduce themselves. We want to like more. Let's go. Let's keep making more. Let's just do it.
I
More.
love it. Yeah.
Right. And so that is, I suppose, the Venus, like if your magnet was very strong and you were living from that place, you could want to regenerate yourself kind of almost constantly by attracting and regenerating and attracting and regenerating.
Like
And
a flower, pollinating.
But what if there's a different way of approaching Venus? Like, what if there was a higher level of Venus? Like, what if you could lift the energy up through your heart, like take it out of the second chakra of kind of like
I want.
internal personal desire of I want, yeah, and like lift it up into
So I
universal
love.
consciousness. And now it is like the love is like,
Yes.
and now instead of needing, like, now you are the love, right? Now you are the Venus.
The lover. Yes. Okay. So that
you're not trying to get, you're not trying to get, you are now being the love. You're being the Venus, right? You are the Venus. So
yes, I love this. This is like a tweak that I love to do with some of my clients who are looking for love. And so they make lists with, I want a guy who makes 6 figures and he should be 6'2". And maybe he has a labradoodle and but so I will tell my clients, like, instead of thinking about the object of your desire, think about you. When you receive, how will that make you? Okay. Yeah. And what type of lover do you want to be in a partnership? So for instance, I want a lover who makes me want to be generous. Okay. Who makes me want to be attentionate and giving and loving, who makes me patient, who makes me forgiving. Who do I want to be as a lover is so much more important than who the person is.
I agree, because you are now taking responsibility for being what it is you need. And ultimately, if you're looking for what you need outside of yourself, you're affirming to the God that is, that you no longer, that you don't have it. So you're actually almost keeping yourself single, as long
by
as you're
being in this lack
place and needing it, right? Looking for it outside. If you find, I mean, this, like, I love it how everything crosses, but we're essentially just talking about the law of manifestation right now. But we're doing it within an astrological context because this is our language of choice. It's all the same thing. You have to be.
It really is.
You be it, right? You be it. You be that. You be that ultimate relationship. It's why people say you should date yourself. Like, be the person. Like, be the person that you want to be on that date, and just be that. And that's how you magnetize. Because Venus magnetizes. She's a magnet. Like, you don't have to do anything with Venus. You should just be in the beingness of her. And that's enough to draw the energy to you that is in a resonant frequency match to you. So
absolutely,
the law of manifestation.
100%. And so with Venus being, love affairs and money, okay, I'm thinking when people are deprived of love affairs, of touch, of connection for so long, when they're deprived of money for so long, okay, that work of just like being the vibration that it's impossible. You can't get there.
What do you do then? I mean, then is it
that's a real question.
Is that the meat hook? Like, is that
the meat hook?
Going through all the layers of pain and going through all the layers of deprivation and starvation?
How can you do Venus work when you can't pay your rent? Or when the electricity is going to be cut off? Like, how can you be tapped into abundance when you can't feed your kids? Like, these are really, they're fucked up things with the thing of manifestation, abundance, and the reality of deprivation. And how in a land that's really deprived and dry, there's no fertility possible. There's no growth that's possible.
Sometimes in a specific situation, there really isn't. right? Sometimes
Yeah.
there really is
Yeah.
impossible. I mean, if you're in a
And so
situation,
that would take somebody with a, like an exalted Venus or a situation that's easier to kind of be generous and transmit. And so
mm.
the interconnectedness and these things
Oh,
is,
so you think in that respect, we could almost enable each other by radiating the pattern,
yeah, I'm
helping to
thinking,
energetically fill it out for someone who doesn't know how to find that
yeah,
complicated relationship in themselves. They're only stuck in their own construct of deprivation or loss or lack. And then having someone else who's gone beyond that and who has that field of energy resonating with that person so that the vibrational frequency
mm-hmm,
matches. You know, that would be that's almost like we're talking about like
mm-hmm,
collectivization right now, and kind of ultimately the way that we should all be in relationship with each other, right? Because Venus has this internal quality, and then she's also ruling Libra. So you're talking about the Libra right now.
exactly. There's the Taurus side,
Yeah.
which is like, I want money,
Well,
I want safety, I
that's
want
the
to go.
I am
Ah,
juicy, juicy.
exactly. Give me, I'm a plant, I'm a plant.
I'm a planet, or I am a resplendent diva because I am in my high,
Exactly. I'm a flower.
so full, and I'm, you know, but then there's also the Libra,
Libra.
where you're going into rapport with another and you're
How
creating,
can I give you?
yeah, how can we go
How
into an
can I be
energy
an
match?
overflow? How can I be an overflow so
Yeah,
fertile, so full, so abundant that there's enough for everyone around me
yeah.
to drink from? That would there this is like part of a Libra, and it's also, you know, it's funny because
Oh.
I feel like our brains sometimes, like you have an idea and it's going to push my idea. You do this thing where we go really fast.
Yeah.
But you know what I was thinking?
Know what?
It's that how Venus and Neptune, and so Neptune can be
Yeah, Neptune is the
maybe
higher octave of Venus. Yeah.
the higher octave of Venus, and maybe that place where there is overflow, maybe that place where there's like actually
Well, that's the universalization, right?
exactly.
Take it out of the me, and you bring it into the we. And if you're connecting to source, well, that's the infinite, abundant source of all radiant beauty and all abundance. So to connect to source automatically enables you to never run out of anything, because there's nothing missing
Hmm.
ever. You can't ever run out. So,
Exactly.
and I feel like almost like intrinsically, like when we look at deep, deep suffering states, like deep states of literal absolute suffering, there is always within every moment of suffering the availability of a connection to source. And that is
Hmm.
always the moment where that seed of healing and that seed of, of reconciliation
Hmm.
of whatever dark pattern you've been caught in can start. Like it always begins with a connection to source. Just like you were saying earlier, love begins with the eyes, right? When the eyes see and there's that soul connection, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's that light that magnetizes. Well, you can find that also within your own relationship to God. I truly believe that. I truly like,
100%.
and I feel like almost like some souls like suffer so much, but if you can just wake up the God inside them, that there is hope, right? And hope buoys us forward, because the universe will reconfigure to our need based on where we are in ourselves. If you can find the universal connection inside your greatest suffering, it might be small, but if you can find it and hold on to it, it will grow. It will become something, right? There's a faith. That's what faith is. Faith. I mean, it feels hokey because we've been sort of indoctrinized to look at religion as being, do you know what I mean? Like it's just like
Stupid. Yeah.
stupid, or we're within religion and we're like, no, this is everything. It has to be like whatever the silliness is. If you find the kernel of hope, and it always reminds this always brings me back to the Viktor Frankl book, Man's Search for Meaning, right? When he's in the
Hmm.
Holocaust, and he started to notice that the people who survive the Holocaust are the people who have hope. They have meaning. And Viktor Frankl, I think very few Jewish people who came out of the Holocaust believed in God after, but
Mm-hmm.
because it was very difficult to believe in God after that happened. However, Viktor Frankl contextualized what he noticed in terms of a sense of meaning. If you have a sense of meaning, something to keep you up, something to look forward to, hope, that is survival. That is what we need to survive. And it's almost like hope is the thing that brings us up rather than down. So hope, if you have hope, it's like you're looking at a star and the star is God, but you don't know it's God. You just hope that this thing will happen or something better is in the future, and you hold that line, you are going to rise.
I think that's true for many people who've had accidents and were told they were never going to walk before, and these types of situation where a person beats the odds against all odds, and I think that's the factor, might be hope.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because I'm thinking now that with this descent of Venus, that there might be maybe some hopelessness and feeling like,
I've been feeling that.
right? Like, oh, like I'm really raw right now. This is really like I'm really hitting the bottom of this. And so that could be the place where we find hope. And if we think about like Venus's ascension and a new cycle begins, it's a new cycle of hope, right? And I think that, to go back to manifestations earlier, I think that one of the things also, the trick of like praying for someone else instead of praying for yourself, the idea of like, yeah, like you were saying, like being that Venus in someone's life and shifting from a place of I need to receive, I'm hungry, to a place of what do I have to give. And when you go to places like the most horrible, like encampments, like the fucking Holocaust or whatever, there's this person that's helping everybody. There's this one person everywhere. You'll have like a homeless encampment, but there's one woman who's scrappy, who's getting the food for other people, who's figuring it out. You'll have like the poorest people, and they'll be giving out clothes and sharing food and making sure everybody in the neighborhood has, like, even with nothing, like people have something to give. And that shift from what do I need to what do I have to give, even for the sun, even for Leo.
You're talking like sacred Taurus right now, right? Like this is like, because Taurus is so materialistic and greedy at some level, but then once it understands what the nature of abundance really is, it becomes so generous.
Yeah, and I think like generosity is not only like a virtue, it could actually like be like a political kind of like community healing, like an activism,
Oh
like
my God.
like a,
Seriously.
right? Like a radical futuristic concept. And look, I have Uranus in Scorpio opposite my Taurus, right? But so thinking of like, how can I diffuse that from this place of really feeling my lack to this place of what do I have to give you? Look at my butt. You see my butt?
So I want to just call out for a second, though, that we're coming out of that Pisces Virgo era, and quote unquote, like charitable giving or Christian giving and things like that sometimes actually holds people in a position of lack and suffering, right? Because there's almost like a piety to that. Like we're getting rid of, I think, that model of like social kind of welfare as you're way down there beneath me, so I'm going to benevolently look down upon you and give something nice to you, and don't you appreciate me? Right? Like that's very,
and do I get bonus
that
points?
relationship with generosity. And so maybe this, what you're tapping into is this Aquarius Leo, like a generosity that doesn't necessarily have a hierarchical structure. It's not
No, yeah.
me on a mission to save you.
No,
It's
it's not
more about,
missionary.
right? Like it's not, we're not
Yeah.
the missionaries. We're more like,
Yeah.
I'm amazing. You are
And
too.
come
Let's
drink
share
some.
everything we
Yeah.
have with each other so that we can all thrive. Like,
I
wow,
think that's
what if we
big
were all
work.
and we
Mm.
could all work together to make sure everything was amazing for everybody, because each one of us is equally as valuable and equally as special within this collective field that we're part of. So you're talking about oneness right now. Talking about
Absolutely.
oneness.
And how we're confronted. So, like it's funny because I'm some of our students, I'm sure, look at us, Sarah and Sara, and be like, oh my God, these women have their shit together, but we don't. And so sometimes we'll be confronted with these parts of us that come from this place of lack of insecurity. The little chihuahua is barking like super loud, right? And even if we do practice these things and try to stay in that mind, will get confronted. Like I'm thinking about people we work with sometimes get confronted by limitations. We're like, whoa, 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 hold on. Like there's it's that tension where you're like being so giving, and at some point it feels scary as shit. And then we want to pull back and we're like, wait, let me protect this, which is mine. And we get back into the Taurus until we can relax and be like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. They can have.
I feel that a lot actually, right? I'm feeling that a lot right now because I feel like Venus retrograde is making me pull in, actually, like, right, like, so we might still be in the pulling in part, like maybe not so much like the I want to like now generously share, like more, a little bit more like, okay, I'm kind of hoarding myself a bit right now, like I'm with me, I'm like getting naked, I'm like, and if I'm gonna put myself on a fucking hook, like like leave me alone. And then maybe after the 12th there is that coming back out into the generosity of self, like now we can share, now we can move into that. Do you
Yeah,
think?
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm hoping it ideally, and so what it's going to take for people to look at their own Venus in their chart. Like what's going on with your Venus, baby? What's going on with your Taurus and Libra houses? What's going on, like all of these parts. And so
That's really complicated. That's really
it's really
complicated.
complicated. And that's why not all transits appear the same way to everybody. So
That's
for
true.
me, this Venus retrograde was really good.
Yeah.
I'm a double Taurus. It's going retrograde in my 8th house. Like everything could have gone wrong, but it's a really sweet time right now for me. So I'm observing, and compared to the one in 2015, like a lot sweeter too, so different. And I'm thinking because of my other transits, I'm thinking because of my own relationship with Venus, with what just happened to my Venus, maybe a million stories. So the idea is to think that there's maybe not like a one answer fits all for everyone during this Venus retrograde, but however,
Yeah.
that these parts of us are up for consideration and observation. Like, okay, what's going on with you on this? It doesn't mean that for some people it's going to be painful, for some people it's going to be exhilarating, for some people it's going to be nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worthy of looking at that right now,
Mm-hmm.
because that's part of a greater story that's being written and continues to write itself
Mm-hmm.
about our relationship with our visibility, our generosity, our needs, our desires, etc.
Our
Right?
worth, our
Our
value,
worth,
our
our
values.
value.
Yeah. The things we need, all of that stuff. Yeah. So I feel like we are at an hour and 20 minutes. We should probably wrap our beautiful,
How
like,
do we do
how
that?
do we do that? I like talking to you more than anything. You're the
You're
best.
like a time portal. Like
We
we could
like create like
continue.
this, it's like a little portal. Like I feel bad because I mean it's so much time if someone's going to make this big investment to actually listen to us. That's kind of
So they can pause and then come back and pause and
they
come
can
back.
pause and come back. I wish
Yeah.
I had some mad editing skills and I could just like cut like nuggets out and like create little like pods, like
No, but like people have been liking these. Like I get a lot of returns on, oh my God, this conversation with Sara you had was so impactful for me. Thank you so.
I've had a few of those comments also. So Let
So
us
thank
know.
you if you're still listening after all this time.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We are grateful. So please, if sharing is caring, if you've made it this far,
Yeah, you need to send this to
share
somebody.
it, like it, and leave a comment, and share it with other people. And we'll try to maybe we'll get more concise sometime, or maybe we can just keep talking our hearts out, and this is perfect.
Yeah, yeah, or maybe we'll learn editing. Who knows?
Maybe. All right.
I love you, Sarah Gordon.
You too.
Mwah.
Mwah, 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 mwah.